Good morning, friends. Welcome to The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben, and thanks for joining us. Our number today, 844-236-6010, 844-236-6010. If you have questions, comments, success stories you'd like to share, if you want to contribute to the conversation, we love hearing from you on The Bright Side. 844-236-6010 is our number. We will get your calls in our next segment. We're going to talk to Ilona Siunate. She is the author of a book called Liberation Unleashed, a guide to breaking free from the illusion of a separate self. I've been reading this book for several years now. I haven't finished it yet. It's pretty heady stuff. It's got some powerful information in it. It's very abstract, but man, it is really, really good material. It's called Liberation Unleashed, a guide to breaking free from the illusion of the separate self. There is definitely a separate self that is illusory, that is responsible for many, if not all, of our problems. Our psychological problems, particularly our mental problems, our emotional problems, are all related to the fact that we have this self, this I, that can't really seem to be found, but seems to run our lives nonetheless. We'll talk about how to get free from the separate self, the illusion of the separate self, with Ilona Siunate at the bottom of the hour, and we'll get your calls in our next segment, 844-236-6010. If you want to purchase longevity products, head to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can purchase longevity products right off the site, or you can call 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470 for more information. If you're interested in starting a home-based business, click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to love the longevity business opportunity. If the world of nutrition has helped you or your loved ones and you want to be part of it, part of the billion-dollar nutritional supplement business, the longevity business opportunity is something you at least want to take a look at, particularly if you're looking for a home-based business or if you like the entrepreneur lifestyle. Click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can also call 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470 for more info. All right, we'll get your calls in our next segment, 844-236-6010. Ilona Siunate will be with us at the bottom of the hour. I want to continue talking about the carriers of the life force, digestive enzymes. Enzymes turn the dead food into our living bodies. One of the greatest miracles of the human body is how it turns food into our bones and blood, how the construction of the body comes from the foods we eat, which is really pretty darn incredible. And how does it all happen? It all happens with enzymes. Enzymes turn dead food into living substances, into living animated bodies. No enzymes, no life. No enzymes, no life force. And aging itself can be thought of as the physical manifestation of enzyme depletion. This was Dr. Howell's brilliant insight. This was Dr. Edward Howell's big idea, that sparing enzymes can allow us to extend our lifespan. Sparing enzymes lead to extended life, leads to life extension. Dr. Howell thought that food enzymes could help us spare our chemistry enzymes, the enzymes that run our biochemistry, metabolic enzymes they're called, and thereby increase our longevity. Doctors know, and the medical model knows, that enzymes are powerful, and that's why you have enzyme inhibitor drugs. In fact, many, if not most, of the drugs that we take, the prescription drugs we take, work by inhibiting enzymes. Everything from Tylenol to aspirin to anti-diabetes drugs. This inhibitory effect this enzyme inhibitory effect is behind many of the mechanisms of action of poisons and venoms. When you break things down, the idea of blocking enzyme chemistry, the idea of blocking chemistry in general, is bass-ackwards. It's ridiculous. It's this mirror idea. Our way of looking at keeping the body healthy is just backwards. It's a mirror reality. We think we can get healthier by shutting down our biochemistry. If we're sick, we take something that inhibits our chemistry. If you know that enzymes carry the life force, how can you get better by suppressing the life force? It makes no sense. The medical model, when it comes to treating chronic long-term degenerative diseases that by nature degenerate, where the body does not regenerate, the medical strategy for treating these illnesses makes no sense. It's based on this reductionist idea that you can target specific organs or specific biochemical reactions and just shut them down, or just remove them, or just poison them. It's idiotic. when I was in pharmacy school, I was blown away by the utter stupidity of it. Okay, so yes, I know that there are times when you need to have a drug. I hear people say, oh, well, what about antibiotics? What about pain pills? Somebody yesterday said to me, what about anesthesia? Yes, I understand that there are times that you need this, but for dealing with diabetes, for dealing with Parkinson's disease, for dealing with autoimmune diseases, for dealing with various neurological and digestive health challenges, it is ridiculous to try to think that you can get better by shutting down the body, by shutting down the life force, by shutting down biochemistry, by inhibiting enzymes. We need to start looking at the body as a system. The idea of the body as a system is based on something called systems theory. Systems theory is the idea that systems operate in a way that's different from individual components of those systems. The body is a system, meaning it's made up of a bunch of parts that work together. Without which, if one of those parts are taken out, you no longer have the same system. If you shut down a part of a system, you no longer have the same system. If your body is a system and you shut down a part of it, you no longer have that body system. That's systems theory, and we can perhaps forgive our medical representatives, our health authorities, for not understanding this, because when they went to medical school, when the medical model was developed at the turn of the 20th century, we didn't know about systems theory. We didn't have an understanding of how systems worked. There was perhaps, most of you guys probably heard that there was a big shooting in Boulder a week ago. And so now everybody wants to target the shooter. Well, guess what? The shooter is part of a system. That system is the culture that we live in. The culture we live in produces shooters. And you can stop the shooters all you want, and you can try to stop the weapons that the shooters carry, but as long as the system is corrupted and it's producing shooters, you're not going to be able to solve the problem because it's a system problem. Likewise in the body. As long as you have an environmental system and a body system that is corrupted and that's polluted with crappy food and crappy thoughts and crappy emotions and crappy air and crappy water, you're not going to be able to cure, quote, air quotes here, cure cancer. Because you cannot cure the particle unless you work on the field. That's Albert Einstein. The field is the sole determining element of the particle. The system is the sole determining element of the symptom. Systems, not symptoms. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back right after this. On the bright side, all our lines are open. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you have questions, comments, success stories you'd like to share, if you want to just contribute to the conversation, or of course, if you have a health challenge you or a loved one needs help with, 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll get to your calls here. This segment, Ilona Siunate will be with us at the bottom of the hour. Her book, Liberation Unleashed, A Guide to Breaking Free from the Illusion of a Separate Self. We talk a lot about chemistry on the program. We talk a lot about biochemistry. I'm fascinated with biochemistry and nutritional chemistry. Certainly there are wonderful things you could do to restore the body back to its God-given state of good health by using good nutrition, by using good dietary strategies, by using good lifestyle strategies, exercise, the fourfold square of health. Of course, nutriate, respirate, move, and rest are critical for maximizing and optimizing the body's physical well-being, but the mind and the emotions, mind and feeling, and also our spiritual connection should not be marginalized or dismissed if we want to be truly healthy. Understanding the hegemony, the tyranny of the sense of I, the sense of ourself, the sense of the self, capital S, S-E-L-F, needs to be understood because the self, the I, number one, is illusory, and number two is behind most of our suffering. The idea that there is an I, which nobody can really find. And once you really dig deep, once you dig deep into this, the illusory nature of the sense of self, you'll find that nothing is there, and there's nothing really to get hurt. Ultimately, with the exception perhaps of just pure physical pain, most of our suffering is not pure physical pain. It's mental and it's emotional. It's angst. Pain is, nobody wants physical pain. We live in a physical body, and it's fragile and it's vulnerable, and physical pain is certainly one of the most, if not the most unpleasant things about being in a body. But most of our suffering is not physical pain. It's related to this illusory I, this illusory sense of self. This book, Liberation Unleashed, is easy to read, but it's packed with information, and I've been reading it now for almost 2 years. I'm only halfway through. Ilona Sionates will be with us. Ilona Sionate will be with us at the bottom of the hour. Get your calls. This segment, 844-236-6010, if we have. So before we went to break, we were talking about this idea of systems theory, and I'm not done talking about it. I won't probably belabor it here today, but it's very important to recognize, and I'll be talking about it over the coming days and weeks and months. I've been fascinated with systems theory since I first heard about it. I use systems theory in my skincare products, the skin being a system, and understanding how to have healthy skin, like understanding how to have a healthy part of any body, requires understanding how to keep the body system healthy, the body as a system. Targeting individual symptoms doesn't work, thus the complete and utter failure of the modern medical model for treating long-term chronic degenerative diseases. Systems theory says systems grow, systems evolve, systems develop, systems maintain their health with certain strategies. They grow with certain strategies. There's certain things that have to happen in a system for it to grow and evolve and get stronger. The muscles are a system, for example. You would think if you were just operating with symptoms, you would think that if you lifted weights, that would be terrible because you're tearing up your muscle. Well, yes, it is terrible if you're thinking about it not as a system. If you're thinking about it as a system, however, you will see that by tearing it up, you're building it up stronger. That's called hormesis. Hormesis is the idea that systems evolve when they're under stress. They get better when they're under stress. You'll also see that by not working out, by keeping your muscles still, which would seem like it's really nice to do to your muscles, you're actually shriveling them up. If you don't work out, guess what happens? Your muscles shrivel. If you ever broke your leg and had a cast put on your leg for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and they take the cast off, your leg is all rested, that's true, but it sure doesn't look very good because it hasn't been stressed. Understanding the power of stress and the power of exercise, the power of movement, is part of understanding that the body is a system composed of many systems. And in order to operate, in order to maximize its functionality, it has to be stressed. Likewise, the body has to be stressed. Likewise, protecting the body by shutting down biochemistry is not necessarily a good idea, except perhaps occasionally in the short term. This is the whole idea of systems theory, which, by the way, we didn't have systems theory before the 1940s. A guy named Ludwig von Bertalanffy, I think he says, hard to pronounce his name. He was the guy who came up with it in the 1940s, and it wasn't until the 1960s and 1970s that we started to really dive deep into systems theory as far as how the body exploits it, how the body leverages it, how the mind leverages it, and in fact how business organizations leverage it. Ludwig von Bertalanffy. Very difficult to say there. All right, 844-236-6010. We're going to continue talking about enzymes as carriers of the life force. On our next Bright Side episode, I'll read one article here, and then we'll get your calls, 844-236-6010. Actually, a couple articles. This one was in the Washington Post. I'm just going to tell you the headline here, because I don't want to get too political. Vaccine passports are on the way. The Biden administration and private companies are working to develop a standard way of handling credentials, often referred to as vaccine passports, that would allow Americans to prove they have been vaccinated against the novel coronavirus as businesses try to reopen. Man, do they want people vaccinated. Oh my gosh. They are pulling out all the stops. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I'll be censored, and that's what happens if you talk too much about counter narrative about vaccinations, a counter narrative about anything that has to do with health. They want everybody vaccinated, that's for sure. Last program we talked about he who owns the narrative, he who controls the narrative controls the world, and the narrative is get yourself jabbed, as they say. And they sure don't want anybody going counter-narrative. That's the fastest way to get censored, or that's the fastest way to get a stamp on your YouTube video that says, this YouTube violates community standards. All right, this is a really interesting article from Therapeutic Advent of Gastroenterology from last year. N-acetylcysteine and Helicobacter pylori, H. pylori. H. pylori is a bacteria that lives in the intestine, lives in the body, but it's not supposed to get into the stomach. Sometimes it gets into the stomach and it can cause problems like rosacea. It can cause problems if it gets into the urinary tract, or it can cause problems if it gets into the bloodstream on the skin. It's really kind of a nightmare bacteria if it gets out of place, and killing H. pylori is a major strategy for helping folks deal with ulcers, and they'll give you antibiotics these days. If you have an ulcer, they'll give you doxycycline or minocycline, which kills H. pylori. Well, as it turns out, N-acetylcysteine has been shown to eradicate H. pylori at a rate of 85.7%, according to this article. Among the 95% of patients who adhered to the treatment with N-acetylcysteine, eradication rate was 85.7% with NAC. That's pretty darn impressive. N-acetylcysteine is not toxic. N-acetylcysteine does not kill good bacteria. In fact, N-acetylcysteine is pleiotropic. That means it has multiple benefits. N-acetylcysteine, which is really important for the liver, and important for detoxification, heavy metal chelation, for preventing hangovers. N-acetylcysteine even has mental health and emotional health benefits, and has been used to treat obsessive-compulsive disorder as well as addictive behavior, including gambling. They use N-acetylcysteine to get people off of, to help people quit gambling behavior. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. We got Ilona Sionate coming up in our next segment. Her book, Liberation Unleashed. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. On the bright side, I'm Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for joining us. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 on the archive page at brightsideben.com. We also have an archive page at benfuchsarchive.com. Thank you to Peter in the UK for setting that one up. Peter has informed me, and I got to send you a note if you're listening, Peter, that he is taking some time off from doing our archive page. You can still find lots of old archives on the Ben Fuchs archive page. Of course, there's a search engine as well on brightsideben.com and benfuchsarchives.com. If you miss a program or you want to review a specific topic, you can use the search engine. You can also purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com. You can sign up to join the Brightside Ben team as well at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com by clicking on the Join the Team link. If you want to start a home-based business, if you're an entrepreneur, you like the entrepreneur lifestyle, you want to make some part-time income or even a full-time income, we'd love to have you on the Brightside Ben team. I can help you build your business. Click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can also call 866-735-2470 for more information. 866-735-2470. And don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products, all formulated in my compounding pharmacy for helping folks deal with post-surgical traumas, burns, scrapes, various skin diseases, acne, psoriasis, eczema. Truth Skin Health products are medicinal strength without medicine. They're pharmaceutical strength without a prescription. They use nutrition and transdermal technologies to accelerate the healing of skin, to stimulate cells, to produce collagen, to stimulate cell growth, to make your skin look better, to make your skin look healthier, to make your skin glow. And that's why we have 1,700 4- and 5-star reviews, which you can check out at truthreviewed.com, truthreviewed.com. And you can check out all our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, water, silicone, vegetable oil, nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want. In any of our Truth Skin Health products, just 100% active and functional ingredients. Truthtreatments.com for our Truth Skin Health products, and truthreviewed.com for our 1,700 4- and 5-star reviews. Well, I am a little bit disappointed because Ilona, I think, we just got Ilona. Well, scratch that. I was going to tell you that I was disappointed because we couldn't get a hold of Ilona. She's in Romania, and we're calling her long distance. Ilona Sionate, I believe I said her name right, is the author of a book called Liberation Unleashed, A Guide to Breaking Free from the Illusion of a Separate Self. And if you think that's out there, if you think it's airy-fairy, if you think it's too abstract, think again, because it's extremely practical. Number one, the idea of the I, and I say the idea of the I because nobody can put their finger on an I. It's an idea. The concept of the I is behind most of our suffering. In fact, I will tell you, it is behind all of our suffering. Perhaps not physical pain, but long-term angst and suffering, which accounts for most of our misery. Most of the problems with being alive are related to the suffering that is created by the illusion of the I. And if you think this is out there and airy-fairy, you should read Dr. Bruce Hood or Dr. Douglas Hoffman or Dr. Antonio Damasio. You should read a book called The Self-Illusion by Dr. Bruce Hood, or perhaps The Illusion of Reality by Dr. Douglas Hoffman, or perhaps Self Comes to Mind by Antonio Damasio. And you will see that neurologists today, neurochemists, PhDs, believe that the self is an illusion, that the I is an illusion. But you don't need to have a PhD to figure it out. Just close your eyes and try to find the I, and try to find the self. Why are we so addicted to the self? That's the question that we are going to talk to Ilona Sionate about, author of the book Liberation Unleashed. Please welcome to the bright side, Ilona Sionate. Hello, Ilona.
Hello, Benjamin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so nice to talk to you. I've been reading your book for several years now. I have not finished it, but it's way highlighted, and it's got lots of markers in it because it's such a beautiful and succinct and easy to understand way to address this real problem that we have as human beings, and that is what I call the addiction to the self. Will you talk a little bit about this idea that we're hooked on the fact that we think we're real, or we think the self is real, I should say, and how that relates to all the suffering that that the human experience seems to entail?
Yes, at the core, at the bottom of all the suffering is the idea that we are separate. And separate from what, you would ask? But we believe somehow that we are separate from life itself. Like there is life out there, and here is me. And life is happening to me. And this me is an idea. It's a mind-created character through which a story is being told about the character. And when you start looking deeply, where is that me? There's nothing there. There's nothing to be found. It's literally, what we perceive is colors, sounds, sensations, taste, smell, emotion, thought.
It seems self-evident. It seems obvious, no? I mean, if you close your eyes and try to find the I, or try to find stuff, you can't find it.
No, there isn't. But this idea is so ingrained in our society and culture and everywhere that, we are born into this. And there is no way not to believe it, at least for some time. Like our children, they are born without any ideas, and then we learn the language. And this I comes with the language. Then we point to our body and we say, this is me, this is I. And then we are told how this I has to behave, what to do, what not to do, what is a good boy, what is a bad boy or girl, And that's how it starts building this illusion.
So
but at some point in life, sorry?
I was going to say, do you think this is built into the way we communicate, into our languaging, this idea of subject and object, that there's this me, and then there's who operates on the world, and it's kind of in the words that we use in our sentence structure?
Yes, precisely. The illusion is mostly due to language, because our language is this: there is a noun, there is a subject, there is an object, there is doing action, doing something. So there is a doer. And the question who, for example, question who is asking for the doer, is asking for a subject. But if you look at grass is growing, it seems like there is something that is called grass, and it's doing the growing. Right. Oh, I am sitting. There is an I that is sitting.
Yeah,
I am breathing. There is I in breathing.
How about it? I like it is raining. My favorite one is it is raining. Like, what is it? we say it a lot. When we can't figure out a subject, we make one up and we say it. It is happening.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But what is it?
Yes.
Okay, so we've isolated the problem, and it's definitely a problem because I believe it's responsible for all of our angst and suffering. But what can we do about it? That's the question. I'm sure you run into people who say, I understand what you're saying logically, but still I feel trapped in this. And I know you have some amazing YouTube videos where you walk people in the sweet way that you have through a process where they can dismantle or deconstruct this illusory sense of I in a very easy and very compelling and very logical kind of way. Not by assertion, but strict by logic. So perhaps when we come back from our break, you can do that for us?
Sure.
Okay, good. We're with Ilona Siunate. I hope I said that right. Her book is Liberation Unleashed. She also has a Facebook page, Liberation Unleashed. More with Ilona Siunate on the bright side right after this. On the bright side, I'm pharmacist Ben. We're talking to Ilona Siunate. Her book is Liberation Unleashed, a guide to breaking free from the illusion of a separate self. And if you think it's airy-fairy and abstract, you should read Thomas Metzinger, German philosopher and theoretical philosopher and cognitive scientist, Dr. Bruce Hood, Douglas Hoffman, Antonio Damasio. All of these are cognitive neuroscientists who have studied and who have come to the conclusion that there is no I or there is no self. So Ilona, what you're talking about it's being verified by cognitive scientists and hardcore biochemists and brain scientists. So it does sound a little weird when you think about it, because of course there's an I, but apparently there isn't. Yet it is. This illusory I seems to be behind all of our suffering and the misery that can comprise the human experience. How do you get people who understand what you're saying logically to actually live through that, live that truth?
Very good question. Thank you so much. Well, you can verify that in your own experience right now. There is no need to be a doctor or a physicist or study the brain or anything like that. You can just simply look. And what I mean by look is we are looking for something, always looking for something, like how to get somewhere, how to become, or how to improve, or how to get away from unwanted situations. But the key here is to start looking at, not for, but at. This is the main difference. And when you start looking at your own experience, you can start seeing and describing for yourself what you are seeing. And there are difficulties in this process because a lot of fear can come up. It's fears of disappearing or non-existing or, losing love for your family or
hang on to
not
that
being
thought.
able to work.
Ilona, hang on to that thought. Hang on to that. Who is scared?
Exactly. But that's what arises. There is a big fear of things like that happening, which is completely irrational. And one of the steps in this process is to look behind that fear and see what is there. And when you see that there is nothing there, the fear collapses. It doesn't want to protect the illusion, So the other thing is to look at the expectation. As they say, we are looking for, like, happy ever after, better tomorrow. But when you realize that looking for something takes you away from what is here right now, then you can stop looking for what does not exist, for what is not here, and start observing, witnessing what is presently here. And the third big obstacle in this is the resistance. There may be a lot of resistance even to this idea. There is no self. It can feel like really painful or damaging to the sense of self until you look at it. And when you look at it right now, where's the sense of self? Which sense is the self?
So self is a sense. It's not a thing.
It's not a thing. It's an idea.
It's like hearing. It's like you have a sense of self, like you have a sense of hearing. Would you say it that way?
Yeah.
So it's a sense, and that's what Dr. Antonio Damasio. He has a book called Self Comes to Mind, and he's a neurophysicist or a neurobiologist, and he talks about it being hardwired in the body and being associated with our shape. And in the brain, we feel kind of like we create a shape of ourselves, a map of where our arms are and where our legs are. And it's in the brain. He associates the sense of self with that hard wiring. It's not like there's a sense of self. It's just kind of a sense or a perception. It's not like there's a self. It's a perception.
Yes, there is a perception of the body. And usually what we identify with is the body, the mind, the emotions. So body is essential to look at. And when you start looking at the body, with the eyes closed, there is no body. There is sensation. There is a field of happenings. There are various sensations are happening, and that's what we call the body. So if I ask you, are you in the body? And are you a sensation?
Yeah, you feel like you're in the body.
Away.
You feel like you're in it, but it's really just a sensation.
Yeah. And often people say, yes, there is a sensation behind the eyes. That's me. But then, are you a sensation?
Yeah, then you're a sensation. That's exactly right. You're a sensation. You're not a thing. You're just whatever a sensation is, a perception, I suppose. But you're not really a solid thing. Have you ever heard of this? I don't know if you've heard of this experiment where they put a fake hand in front of you, a rubber hand.
Yeah.
You've seen the rubber hand experiment? And somebody acts like they act like they're going to hit the hand with a hammer, and you flinch because your brain sees the rubber hand and thinks it's your hand, right? It's like the brain is creating all of this stuff. But there's nothing
what
real.
What happened here? The mind creates this idea that there is a me, and it has to be protected. It has to be the best. It has to achieve what it needs to achieve. It has the goals and all that. And that idea is protected. And yes, all the belief system is hardwired to be protected. So there is a lot of resistance once you start poking into that. There is a resistance. And what is the most incredible thing is that the sense of resistance comes with the story about me, the resistor. I am resisting. I don't like this. I want this to change and all that. So without the resistance, there is no me. What we call me is like a sense of resistance. It
requires resistance. It almost requires resistance against the world. You have to create this separation. So you have to push away the world, no?
Yes. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it's incredible. It means that we're built to suffer because resistance is suffering. And in order to maintain the reality of the I, you have to have resistance. So we're doomed to suffer with this entire mechanism. So is it possible, I have the question then, is it possible to live a normal life, to go to your job, to go to the store and shop, to eat and do all the things you need to do to maintain your body, and still not be attached to this illusory I, or still know that this I is somehow fabricated and not real?
Absolutely, because everything is already happening. That narration about what is happening, including the I, me, I am doing this, I am doing that, is on top of the experience. Like, everything is already happening. There has never been an I. That illusion is not making things happen. It's not doing, it's not living, it's not perceiving. It's just a way we are talking in our heads about what is happening. So it's a part of narrative, but not part of life.
So can you control your narrative to live your life making this I transparent somehow? Can you control the voice in your head, or have the voice in your head talk a certain way to control that kind of perspective?
Well, that would be a separation. That would be me controlling the mind, but the mind is just talking by itself. Like if you start checking where your thoughts coming from. Are they coming from the I? Are they coming from some container? Or are they just coming from nowhere, just popping up?
So simple way.
That this is happening.
So simple way, we have about a minute here. Simple way, if somebody is dealing with some kind of trauma, somebody died, somebody's sick, somebody's broke, they just lost their job. What's a simple way for people to somehow diffuse their suffering by taking advantage of this kind of insight, this wisdom that you're talking about?
Well, everything is happening by itself. Life is happening by itself. And that includes everything, thoughts, feelings, sense of self. So there is no separation between you and life. What you are is life happening as you, not to you, but as you. So this life has intelligence. It's not random. It's not chaotic. So just trust trust the bigger picture, trust that life knows what it's doing.
Do you believe that you'll know a person, an entity will know what to do automatically without having to think, I have to do this, I have to do that?
Sure. Like, flowers know how to flower. Trees know how to grow, just natural. Coming back to naturalness, really.
Do you, Ilona, do you wake up in the morning and say, I am? Or do you just wake up in the morning and it just happens?
Well, everything just happens. Even these thoughts, I am, something that just happens. So a good question to play with is, what is not happening on automatic?
What is not happening on automatic? That's the question?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
That's a good place.
That's good. I like that, because nothing is not happening automatic. Everything's happening automatic. Correct?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And then you try to control that mind, which is already happening on automatic.
Yeah.
Why not to just let it be?
Ilona, thank you so much for being on the bright side. And your book is absolutely wonderful, spectacular, sparkling, wonderful, wonderful work. And your insights are brilliant. Liberation Unleashed is the book, A Guide to Breaking Free from the Illusion of a Separate Self. Ilona Sionate. And how do we get to your webpage? What's your webpage? Is it just liberationunleashed.com?
Also, IlonaTonight.com and liberationunleashed.com.
Okay, and that's Ciunaite, Ilona Sionate. Thanks for being on the bright side, Ilona. Have a beautiful day. Ilona Sionate has been with us, her book Liberation Unleashed, and that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to you later, folks. Bye for now.